Okay, let's unpack this. If you're in academia, maybe you're dealing with deadlines, papers, just that feeling of information overload. Then you probably know that feeling, that kind of deep fatigue, like your brain's just running on fumes and the task list never shrinks. It's something, well, a lot of us face.
Oh, absolutely. From the outside, academia can look like, pure intellectual pursuit. Very satisfying.
Yeah.
But living it often means intense pressure, that endless list you mentioned, performance anxiety, and just real emotional exhaustion, especially during crunch times, right? Like finishing a PhD or pushing for publications.
Yeah, and it's more than just being tired. It hits everything, your work, your well-being. It's often called academic fatigue, that feeling of burnout, zero motivation, like you're just spinning your wheels.
Right. But, and this is the good news, it's not like inevitable. We found a really great source for today's deep dive. It is an article laying out 5 strategies to reduce academic fatigue. And this content comes from Academic Practices. They share some really valuable stuff. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, big thanks to Academic Practices for this framework. So our mission here is to pull out the really key bits from these 5 strategies. We want to get why they work and how they can help you, the listener, not just cope, but maybe find more fulfillment and sustainable ways to work.
Sustainable productivity, yeah. So first, let's just clarify what this source means by academic fatigue. They define it as that state. Researchers feeling burnt out, unmotivated, unproductive, marked by that intense mental pressure, the lists, the anxiety about performance, and, emotional exhaustion.
That definitely rings true. So many people I know feel that. And these strategies, they're not magic fixes, but ways to actually manage it.
Exactly. Manage the fatigue, boost productivity, sure, but also crucially boost your sense of satisfaction. It's about the long game.
Okay, let's dive into strategy 1. This is about reducing cognitive load, or as they put it, managing mental clutter.
Yeah, this is so fundamental. Think of your brain like your computer's RAM. Limited capacity. Academic life often feels like trying to run 100 heavy programs at once.
Yeah.
You're juggling projects, papers to write, emails, articles to read. Just holding all that in your head burns mental energy.
Ah, okay. So it's not just the work itself, but the mental energy spent just remembering everything.
Precisely. That background hum is exhausting. So the article suggests some practical fixes. First one's simple. Externalize.
Just get it out of your head.
Exactly. Write it down. Simple to-do list, fancy app, sticky note, doesn't matter what you use. Just get it out of your mental workspace. It frees up that RAM so your brain isn't constantly trying to hold on to it all.
Makes sense. Stop the mental looping. What else? They mention a mental compartmentalization technique. Sounds a bit formal.
It does? Maybe. But the idea is super useful. Basically, you mentally assign a box or folder to each project or task. So when you're working on your paper, you only open the paper box. You consciously try not to let thoughts about teaching or emails or grants creep in. Then when you switch tasks, you mentally close the paper box and open the next one.
That sounds like it needs discipline, especially when everything feels urgent. But I can see how it stops that mental ping pong.
It takes practice, for sure, but it really helps focus. And the third technique here is time blocking.
Ah, yeah, it's pretty well known.
And really key here, instead of trying to multitask, which is usually just switching back and forth really fast and badly, you block out specific time slots for one single task. For that hour or 2 hours, whatever it is, you only do that one thing. It focuses your mental energy much more effectively, less drain.
Okay, so using these together, writing stuff down, the mental boxes, blocking time, you're cutting down the brain's background noise, freeing up energy for the actual task at hand. That feels like a direct counter to feeling overwhelmed.
It absolutely is. Which leads nicely into the second strategy. Coping with perfectionism. Subtitle: Embracing good enough.
Oof. This one's huge in academia, isn't it? We're trained for excellence, the best article, the perfect study, the top journal. How does that become a trap?
Well, those high standards are motivating at first, but they can become paralyzing when they turn into perfectionism. That feeling of, I can't finish this because it's not perfect yet, or even, I can't start because the ideal version feels impossible to reach.
Yeah, the blinking cursor of doom, or rewriting one sentence endlessly.
Exactly that. So the source suggests a few things. First, observe your inner voice.
Listen to that self-criticism.
Yeah, but listen critically to it. That voice saying, this isn't good enough, this is weak, so-and-so would do this better. The article says, recognize that voice as perfectionism. It's not always helpful feedback. Sometimes it's just a barrier. Seeing it for what it is. That's step 1.
Okay. And then there's this progressive production model. What's that about?
It's basically the antidote to needing everything perfect from the get-go. It means accepting that the first draft of anything, a chapter, a talk, whatever, is going to be rough. You just get something down.
Yeah.
Focus on getting ideas out. Then you iterate, revise, edit, improve, layer by layer, build it up gradually.
That sounds way less daunting than aiming for brilliance on day one. And the last point here, acknowledge small wins.
So important, especially with long academic projects. Perfectionism tends to dismiss anything short of the final polished product. But this strategy says no. Recognize finishing a section, sending that tricky email, formatting that table. Those are progress. They build momentum. They remind you you're moving forward, even if the finish line is far off.
So good enough isn't about settling for mediocrity in the end, but about being kinder to the process and noticing the steps. Helps keep you going.
Exactly. Shifts focus from some impossible ideal to actual, tangible progress. Which brings us to strategy 3. Distinguishing academic identity from personal identity.
This can be really tricky. Our work is often so central, right? And success pubs, grants, citations, it can feel like that is who we are.
And that's the danger the source points out. When your self-worth gets tangled up with those metrics, any setback, a rejection, a grant falling through, feels like a personal failure. It's not just my paper was rejected, it's I am a failure, which is just devastating for resilience.
It's like your CV is a grade for you as a person. Ouch.
Right. So the source says you have to consciously work on separating these. First step, develop identity awareness.
Like actively think about how you define yourself.
Yes. Remind yourself you're more than just researcher. You're a person with other roles, other interests. You're a friend, maybe a partner, a parent, a hobbyist, a volunteer. Your identity is way bigger than just your job title or your publication record.
And they suggest an identity mapping exercise for this. Sounds practical.
It is. Literally draw it out or list it. Ask, who am I? Write down all the answers. Then maybe categorize them. Professional, personal, social. Seeing it visually helps hammer home that your academic self is just one part of a much bigger picture.
And the goal of this separation is to build emotional flexibility.
Exactly. When you create that distance, you can start to see academic outcomes, good and bad, as related to your work, not your fundamental value. A rejected paper is about that paper, not about you. That distinction is crucial for staying motivated through the ups and downs.
That feels like more than just an academic strategy. It's kind of a life skill for anyone in a demanding field. You are not your output.
Totally. Okay, moving to number 4. Making motivation sustainable. And this is about tapping into your intrinsic reasons, why you're doing this in the first place.
Right. The source notes that relying only on extrinsic stuff, deadlines, pressure, supervisor expectations, it only gets you so far.
Yeah, that's a huge insight. External pressure, it can kickstart things, sure, but long term, it's draining. If that's all that's driving you, the work itself starts to feel pointless, like a slog, and that leads straight to fatigue. Real, sustainable motivation has to come from within.
So how do we reconnect with that inner drive, especially when we feel burnt out? First tip is simple. Remember why you started.
Go back. What questions genuinely excited you at the beginning? What problem did you want to tackle? What part of your field just lights you up? Taking even a few moments to reconnect with that initial spark, that curiosity, can really help reignite the internal engine.
And they also suggest a meaning-making exercise. What's that involve?
It's about linking your specific work, even if it feels small or niche, to a bigger picture. Think about the potential impact. How might this tiny piece of knowledge contribute? Who could it eventually help, even indirectly? Keeping that sense of purpose alive provides a really powerful internal pull.
Finding the deeper why beyond just the next task makes sense. And the last bit for this strategy, make space for interests.
Yeah, this might sound weird when you feel swamped, but it's vital. Don't only read or think about things directly related to your current project. Make time, even a little, to engage with topics that just genuinely fascinate you, intellectually, even if they're totally unrelated. It feeds that core love of learning.
It's like remembering you love learning, period, not just learning about this one specific thing. It can actually refuel you for the main work.
Precisely. Nurturing that internal curiosity is key to sticking with it for the long haul without crashing.
Okay, which takes us to the fifth and final strategy, taking care of yourself, framed as building psychological resilience for academic success.
And this one is, well, maybe the most basic, but often the first thing that gets sacrificed under pressure. The source is really clear. Neglecting fundamentals like sleep, nutrition, movement doesn't just hurt your body. It directly impacts your brain function, your mood, your ability to actually do the academic work well.
Right, it's not a luxury after the work, it's the foundation for the work. So what practical steps do they suggest?
A few key things. First, take micro breaks.
Like short, regular pauses?
Exactly. Little breaks, maybe 5 minutes every half hour or so,
Yeah.
like the Pomodoro technique. These aren't wasted time. They actually help fight off mental fatigue and keep you focused longer. Strategic pausing.
Okay. Then create digital detox hours.
Yeah, setting specific times to step away from screens, especially email and social media. That constant barrage of info keeps our brains kind of buzzing in a low-level stress state. Giving your mind actual offline time is crucial for rest.
Feels essential these days. And lastly, build support systems.
Academic work can be super isolating, right? Long hours, often working alone. That isolation just makes fatigue worse. So the source stress is actively building and using your network, regular chats with colleagues, mentors, friends, family, people you trust. It's a space to bounce ideas, share frustrations, get emotional backup. You really don't have to go it alone.
So this last strategy hammers home that your health, mental and physical, isn't separate from academic success. It's essential for it. Self-care isn't optional.
It's absolutely foundational. Bedrock stuff.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, drawing on that great source from academic practices, the big message seems to be academic fatigue feels like a given, but maybe it doesn't have to be.
Right. By consciously working on these 5 areas, managing mental load, tackling perfectionism, separating identities, nurturing intrinsic motivation, and prioritizing well-being and connection, you get real tools. Tools to fight that drain, yeah,
Yeah.
but also to build resilience and hopefully find more sustainable productivity.
And like the source says, using these can actually shift your whole relationship with your work. It's not just about output, it's about fulfillment too.
Exactly. And their final thought is really powerful. Focus on sustainable productivity, not just constant productivity. Pay attention to the goals, yes, but also how you feel along the way.
Sustainable productivity, I like that. It really changes the frame. Well, thank you for joining us on this look into academic fatigue. We really hope unpacking these ideas from academic practices gives you some useful things to try out.
My pleasure. Hope it helps.
And as you think about these strategies, decluttering the mind, embracing good enough, remembering you're more than your research, finding that inner spark, taking care of yourself, here's a final thought for you to mull over. If sustainable productivity is so important for us as individuals, what might happen if these kinds of practices became more widespread? How could that start to shape a healthier, more supportive academic culture overall? Something to consider.